second, the robot is being commanded at its joints what to do.
Yeah, laser rangefinders. Those are the spinning devices you see on Tim's head. They build a 360-degree, three-dimensional model of the environment.
They have a video feed of the camera coming off the robot. The algorithm just makes it not fall over. It's giving this configuration, how do I keep my balance?
In general, people get their ideas about robotics from science fiction, from books, from movies, and of course, real science fact is nothing at all like that.
Yeah, we're a couple hours out, I guess. What time is it? It's, wait, what is today? I don't even know what today is. We took a nasty spill yesterday, and we're just now kind of figuring out what that image is. We have 24 team members here. We've got close to 100 that have worked on this project at some point in time. This is a really good test of our operator interface, because if our operator can operate a robot broken from the get-go and still complete, we'll be totally happy.
T-minus 22 seconds. 3, 2, 1, go. Loading egress.
IHMC took second place, coming in 6 minutes behind South Korea's Team Cased and their transforming wheel-knee robot Hubo. A lot of robots fell over and broke during the finals, but they were much faster and more autonomous than they were the year before.
It's really big in Western culture to see a big humanoid robot like Atlas and immediately think Terminator. And the misunderstanding there is just because a robot looks like a human does not mean that it's processing information or thinking like a human.
There are all the problems. I mean, everywhere there are problems. There are different members of our team who don't sleep on different nights. There's what we call the shakies. A controller on board the robot's computers are telling the robot, to shift slightly to the left, shift slightly to the right. And when it goes out of control, we get the shakies, when the entire robot vibrates and falls over.
Walking is not a form of artificial intelligence. It's rigorous algorithms for how to not fall down.
If 10 or 20 years from now, we see robots not only for disaster response, but for construction and agriculture, and use in the home for aging society and healthcare, I think we'll have been a success too.
Did you attend the presentation from the Professor Rafael last semester? Anyone? The Engineering 400. So we had a guest speaker from it's a George Mason University, right? George Washington or George Mason? George Mason University. So he was one of the members of this team. And this is a 2015 DARPA disaster, humanoid robot for the disaster recovery, disaster situation, the natural disaster. So actually it's motivated by the Fukushima, the tsunami. At the time the tsunami hit the nuclear plant, then there's nothing we can do. So they tried to send a robot, but it didn't work very well. So to stop the fire of the nuclear plant. So motivated by that disaster, then the DARPA offered this competition, the challenge, disaster challenge, the robot competition. And at the time, those one-time event, but it simulates a lot of the tension of the robot. One of the mainstream of the computer science right now is artificial intelligence, AI, to make the brain. However, to use the brain, there are a lot of applications like the financial area or the big data and something the image recognition and the object recognition. But eventually, as I probably mentioned, but I'm not sure that in this classes, the computer science subject, computer science, the research or the study is kind of the mimicking of the human being. Okay. Think about the networking. Networking is the kind of communication of the person. And also the AI is the brain and knowledge training, education. And but eventually, it's not only just from us, but the human. Think about the history of the human society. So actually, we try to make the similar things as the human being. Like we make something. Have you ever been to China? Chien? So anyone who knows what is the most famous thing from Chien in China? In Chinese it's Bing Ma Yong, and in English it's called the Terracotta Warrior, which means the one of the emperor of the, I think who is the first unified main China. He built his own tomb. Okay, it's not just the small tomb; it's the entire city and all the thing. So, just like as he did, the human being has something because we cannot live forever. Okay, there is no immortal thing, but the human being pursue kind of immortal thing. Because of that, I believe the God, but God actually concept of the God made by the human being. Why? Because we cannot live forever. So we need something to replace the earth. Okay. Then in computer science, actually, when we pursue something, the topic in the computer science is something. It's the same thing, similar pattern. We try to find something application that can replace the human being. So one of the most similar thing as the human being is a robot. So I think in addition to the AI or the machine learning, the robot will be the most important part of the computer science. So far we have done a lot of things, the engineering part, computer engineering, hardware part, like how to use the kinematic, the movement and the work and so on, but eventually such a robot should address the problem. So 2015 DARPA offered such an event. After that, a lot of the research opportunity. One of them, the Professor Rafael visited, who did. He actually worked for another university, but he originally studied robotics and the robot in South Korea. So if you remember from the YouTube, so the winner was from one of the, it's like the MIT in Korea or IIT in India. So KAIST, they won this robot competition. Then one of the professors actually joined the University of Hartford. Then he actually is very, very case. He did everything from the beginning to the end of the robotics. So assembly, the hardware and the software part and the algorithm part and even the application part to serve that. Then he tried to offer the similar competition for the undergraduate and the graduate student. We are not sure, but the undergraduate. And also the high school. It's a miniature version of the same event next year. So UB would like to offer the participant. UB would like to participate in that event. So we try to offer the workshop 2 or 3 times of workshop for the humanoid and something the form 1 or 2 teams then to participate in this group. So if you are interested in the robotics, it's not just assembly or to control the robot, but to solve the problem. So problem will be the most similar as what you see in the YouTube, the DARPA, the robot challenge. So like open the door and something, grab the object or moving the small car. So like those miniature version of that, they're using the humanoid robot. Nowadays, humanoid robot is less than 1,000. It's very cheap. So we don't have to spend a lot of time to assemble the robot, but we can focus on the hardware and the software and algorithm part. If think about the AI. So nowadays we can easily recognize which one is cat, which one is dog, using the one line, the API, RESTful API. We can, as long as we connect, we can use the API level, the service. Then, if you read like the images from using the camera that's attached to the robot, it's very simple. It takes 10 minutes to attach the camera. Then if you are connected, then send the image, then recognize whether this is the live object or this is not the unexpected object. Then address the problem of that, something like that. So then to prepare this challenge, this is a brand new one and the first time. So even though it's organized by the University of Hartford, the UB would like to participate in this one. So if you are interested to prepare this as undergraduate or the graduate, the student for the robotics, I'd like to, it's not approved, fully approved yet, so if we can get something budget, so we will do the same, the kind of the initial project for this to prepare that I need some the student to work with this one. And also, but surprisingly, a couple of days ago, I got the shared message from one of my Facebook friend, and then you can actually I shared this one. This is a robot actually. It's a Boston Dynamics, one of the most famous robotics company from MIT. This is really a robot. It's almost like a human being, better than human. Yeah. And very stabilized, and probably they are using a lot of sensor and control. So do not ignore the importance of the robot. One of my lackness of the research is I do not know much about, I do not have much experience on the hardware, such a robotics part. But a lot of things is not just the hardware, there's the software also. So if you are interested in such a thing, so please contact me, okay, then we can prepare for the future. Okay, so today we are going to finish the chapter 13, the IO system. Many of the topics in this chapter we already discussed, so we can quickly go over this one. And if we have time, we can do we did a quiz for the chapter 11, right? So next one is chapter 12. Chapter 13, I'm not sure whether I have the quiz. I'm going to check about the chapter 12, yes. Okay. Any question regarding to the robot? The Boston Dynamics is actually from the one of the research lab in MIT, and they actually the startup company, and it's one of the most advanced the technology in robotics, the industry, and even in Connecticut, local company use a lot of the robot. Like I watched the local use that present local the donut shop use a robot to do that. So, but it's not the humanoid robot, part of the humanoid, the robot arm. So robot arm is a general purpose. It's not dedicated to the specific task. Then there is a program. You can program. Then it's not programmed by the code. It's a program by the training. You can show how to grab the something and move and pull the liquid or whatever. Then such a robot arm actually follow such a thing. At that time, it's not exactly the same movement. Considering the obstacle or the environment, it can adjust. the something margin and so on. So I watched such a news. Even the local company use a lot of opportunity for in the robotics and the robot industry. Okay, quick question. What is it? Have you ever seen this one? IRQ? No? Anyone who used the Windows 95, 98, or 2000? Or is there anyone who assembled your own personal computer? It was popular 10 years ago and not 20, 10 to 15 years, 20 years ago even, 1996, 1997. So because if you purchase the PC, it's around $2,000. But if you assemble by yourself, the capacity is much better, and then the price is less than a half. So you can buy the CPU, you can buy the memory, you can buy the motherboard, you can buy the the graphic card, and then you can assemble your PC. One of the most the hackable problem was the IRQ complete. So you never heard about IRQ? It's an interrupt request. So when you assemble the hardware, each hardware, most of the hardware are related to I/O, input and output, as I mentioned many times. Even CPU, main job of the CPU is the processing the instruction, but it needs input and output. Input is the data and instruction, and output is something, okay? Based on the instruction. Then memory, definitely used through the memory address, we can input and output. As we have seen the last the few weeks, so I/O devices, for example, the hard disk drive, SSD, those are related to the I/O. And think about your cell phone or the computer device. They have only the input and output hardware. Your screen, monitor, LED, keyboard, and anything is related to input and output. So in this chapter, we will talk about such an I/O system. Then the long time ago, whenever we combine such I/O devices, their input and output signal sometimes conflict. The signal means, so do you remember that nowadays the modern operating system, computer system are based on what? Interface. Do you remember? The beginning of this class, the current modern operating system, computer system, is based on the Why? Why? Why do we need such an interrupt? Interrupt is the signal. It's a hardware signal, and it can be the software signal. Sometimes it can be the operating system. But anyway, it's a send the signal between such a device and the operating system, computer system. Why do we need such the signal? Why do they need to communicate each other?
Error handling?
Error handling, that is one of the things. So in case of the something error, like the divide by 0, computer cannot handle that. Can we take care of such an event or the problem, like the divide by 0 by the module, software module itself, or hardware itself? Can we make such the computer system? Probably not. Why? Because computer most important device component is it's a CPU. CPU governs everything. So CPU process the instruction. CPU process the data using the such a thing. So, but the CPU is very limited. We have one thread of the CPU timeline. So without using the CPU, the resource, we cannot handle such the problem. We cannot read the data. We cannot. The memory and any I/O devices are connected to the work for the CPU. So, however, CPU cannot process such a thing all the same time. Even though we have the multiple CPU, multi-core, but they cause something synchronization problem. So we need to always stop and inform to the operating system that we have something problem. Well, I'm ready to send the data, and I'm ready to receive the data. You need to communicate. That is the interrupt. So such an interrupt signal is the most important part of the such a when you organize the hardware and the operating system. However, if you have the conflict, so I have the something line, dedicated line to the CPU. I'm using the this is a CPU and this is the I/O device. Then I'm using the number 1 line, dedicated line, to send the interrupt signal. However, if you have the new the device like this, there is a touch. If you use the same thing from the CPU computer point of view, you don't know which one is which. So each one has used the different number that is called the interrupt request number. So IRQ number 0 is used for the system time, for example. And 1 is used for it's a keyboard. I'm not sure it's to remember everything. Then there is a number. So when you purchase the new hardware, so you need to avoid something. You need to use the proper number of the IRQ number. But sometimes it's not clear. Then sometimes you use the same number, then it's an IRQ conflict. And if you go to the resource manager or the device manager, so there is like the red sign that you can see. This is the most common problem. But that nowadays you may not see such a thing, which means we are not going to use this one. We still use a different name of the IRQ number, but operating system actually, yes.
What does IRQ stand for?
So interrupt request. So it's an interrupt request. Then this number actually use the interrupt service. Interrupt service, we will see if you send the signal, there might be something happen. Like think about the error handling in Java. Try, catch, then your own code. The error handling is not only the error. Sometimes you can use such error handling for the communication signal. Okay, so it's exactly the same thing. So in case of something, the interrupt signal, there might be something, the action. Okay, your code. This is called the interrupt handler. Interrupt handler is a small module of system level programming. Like in case of this is the I/O, then you need to read the data. Like something system level system the program. Then overall this is called the interrupt service. Interrupt handler service. Interrupt service. Interrupt handler is the program. Interrupt service level. So then this is how the I/O device are communicating and do action. Okay, then I think I mentioned about this one. Nowadays, many of the students, many of the users may not realize such an IRQ. That doesn't mean the computer system does not use. Instead, it's automatically actually verified. The long time ago, there are new device which is not verified by the operating system. Okay, so you need to install your device program. You need to assign the speed. If that number is already used, you cannot use it. But nowadays, most of the hardware device, they follow the roadmap of the operating system, roadmap of the processor. If you are developing new the hard disk drive, you can ask to the Microsoft, do you have the roadmap or the specification of the next 20 years? Yes, they have. They provide. Then you can verify by it's kind of genuine. Then there might be no problem, even though you purchase new one, but it will be actually accepted automatically. And so because of that, it's not recognized, but still used in the computer system. This is using the interrupt operator. We will see the more details today. But most of them we already discussed. So this is the concept of the I/O devices. So I/O device has the port. So port is what is the port? Bridge port. It's the same meaning, same concept. So where you can catch. Okay. the Stanford Bridgeport is a port. So ship can at the dock and unload and load the passenger and something. So it's a connection point of the device. So we have seen the similar concept in the network. So when you establish the connection, using the TCP/IP, you need to have the specific port. That is the connecting point. So the I/O device should have such the port. Then, what is a bus? Bus is the highway. So when you attach your ship, you need to send the container to your customer, right? Using what? Highway. Okay, this is the highway to send the data. At that time, we can use a daisy chain. What is the daisy chain? If you settle down in future, after you get a job, you settle down, you purchase a house. When you live in your house, you need to do the garden work, right? One of the heck of job of such a garden work is weed control. So one of the hardest thing to control the weed is kind of a daisy style, the weed. It's really connected, then even though you pull out the one, then there are a lot of it's connected. So there is a stem and coming out the branch. So it's a daisy chain. It's a similar. We will see here. We have the piece bus and the connected. This is the daisy chain style, the connection. So we have the bus, and there are a lot of different types of the bus. We will quickly see over there. Then, as we discussed a lot, each I/O device should have the hardware thing that is called the controller or host adapter. It's a small computer. It has a register. It's embedded the system. Okay. Then your computer, your operating system does not know everything. Instead, you can just communicate with the host adapter. Then, for example, the hard disk drive controller. Hard disk drive controller know how to read the data. Where is if you just receive the block number 1, that is a logical number. Then the hardware for your device and I/O device, know how to read where is really physically located the data. That is a control. This is a common concept of the I/O device. Any I/O devices has the same thing. If you are taking the embedded system or I think the embedded system, you are doing the very basic programming for how to program for the mouse control stuff and move left and right, or the printer to connect the printer. They're using based on this I/O the hardware concept. These are a variety of the port that have seen. PCI is the most popular one, so you can use PCI is the older style, and this is Express extended one. This is Express, then this is the longer version of the PCI Express, and AGP is used for the graphic, the card, and so on. So if you see the motherboard, so you can see the different types of such as the port. And if you purchase the hard disk drive or the new device, you can connect that one to the proper slot. This is the very high level overview of the bus used in the PC. Okay, all the device controller are connected. It's a daisy chain style connected to this one. Sometimes you have the expansion bus in case that device does not require the very high speed. Then you don't have to use because the PCI bus has a limitation of to connect that. So you can use the expansion bus for the slow speed device. And sometimes some of the controller host adapter has the list of the device like the hard disk drive, and while the SCSI controller has up to the 16, and then so on. Okay, and there are two types of the I/O. Then we have the I/O hardware. Then there are two types of the I/O. One is the memory mapped I/O. Another one is the port-based port command or direct I/O instruction. That is. So what is this? This is computer. Then the main part of the computer is CPU. CPU process the instruction. Okay? Then it has a small storage register. Then the most of the data are from memory. So memory is nothing but it's an address. Okay? So if you know the address, like there is an address FFFF, so you can read the data FFFF. Through what? So through the bus. So if you see the hardware, the CPU specification, there is a lot of numbers. So if you are using the 16-bit processor, there are actually 16 lines wired. Okay, you can send the 16-bit at the same time. So you can read from the FFF 16-bit data and to this one. What kind of instruction, assembly code do you know to read the data? Which one is the first most popular one? Among the, for example, usually we have the 100 to the 150 instruction per processor. Okay, then which the instruction is the most popular? What instruction do you know? Anything? Move. Move is what? You can move memory to memory. You can move memory to register. You can move register to memory. You can move register to register. So because of that, this is the most popular. More than the 50% of the instruction code, assembly code is move. And what else do you know? Last time we talked about the what? Free block management. How can you manage the free block? Bit string. Okay? Bit. Then why do we use such a bit string? We can use the instruction, like the first set of the 0, FFC or something like that. So there are a variety of such a instruction. It's actually defined by the CPU. So depending on the CPU, it's different. On one, it's a couple of the popular instruction that are related to I/O is in and out instruction. So in and out, sometimes INS and outs, so they are slightly different. So in and out. So which means when we read the data, we need to use the specific instruction. However, which means the CPU, if you could have within the mouse, screen, and the hard disk drive, 0, hard disk drive 1, and there are a lot of the devices. So you need to know which data is which. So your CPU or operating system even should define which data are needed. This one has to just read, for example, in your code, the F open, and read the F read, the data, something. This is a high level code, but converted to some of the instruction. Then the instruction should know the location, not only just the address of the data, but also the specific, the I/O type you should know. It's much more complicated. Instead,